got Sean.
Get
Sergeant
over here.
Hamill. So I think we're just missing Carl and Pat Sorrell. But once they pull it up, they might be in the waiting room. What are you three not joined?
Don't see anybody waiting.
What is the not joined three people or three mean?
You guys can click on not joined up there for the arrow.
All right, so whenever you guys are ready, we'll just.
Okay.
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, going to call the meeting to order of 5:01 here. Just to help with some of our new people in the room. Chairperson Kasha Antowski, present. Alder Craig Stevens,
I'm present.
present. And then we have Stephen Larson.
Hi.
Patrick Sorrell, he is absent. Jesse Wellens.
I'm here.
And we just got Carl Knight. Okay, we got present, and I see Traffic Sergeant Sean Hamill. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
To help out, could you say your
Oh,
name?
Craig, Alder Stevens.
We've had a couple of requests. Who's our second?
Second by Tara Light.
All right, wonderful. And then can I get a motion? No. All in favor, aye. Any approved?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And then I'd like a motion for the approval of the minutes from our December 15th, 2025.
Alder Stevens will make that motion.
Stephen Larson, second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Now to move on to our regular business, we are going to get some of our reports from, and we have Patrick Sorrell in attendance. Sorrell or Sorrell?
Sorrell.
I had a feeling it was Sorrell. I don't want to butcher it. So with that, and we're going to move on to Sergeant Hamill giving us the monthly traffic enforcement plan and the fourth quarter serious injury and fatal crashes.
All right, so the crash, we had a spike in crashes, probably just due to the weather in December, but it was good to see that even with that, our injuries still went down. So majority of the crashes we're dealing with were just property damage stuff. During the month, we had 34 injuries, 0 fatalities. And 309 of those crashes were property damage only. Enforcement, again, our traffic grants are just starting up again, so without those through the October, November, December, we're down quite a bit on our enforcement numbers. We did get a spike in warnings, and I think a lot of that's attributed to we changed our record system as far as we're doing warnings, and it makes it a lot easier to add another charge and just print extra warnings. So I think it's just easier on our officers that they're issuing more warnings for the violations rather than just doing a verbal warning. Like I said, we got our grants starting up again. We've been doing OWI stuff every Friday and Saturday. And then starting in February, we're adding a couple seatbelt, some speed stuff. So holding on to our pedestrian money until we get it a little bit warmer and there's more people actually walking around. So then we'll get those going and really start ramping up for the summer. Speed and hotspots, nothing real new that popped up. We're still working on. Main ones really focusing on at the moment are Webster and Monroe, school zones 9th and Chantel. School zone there. We've been starting to get complaints about Maine and Washington and the Tillman. Those are our newest ones. But Tillman, that's always going to be. That's just the design of the road feels like a highway, and people drive 50 or more. regularity. The intersection we're looking at for crashes, and we're starting to work with the speed data we have there. We're starting to overlay that with citation data as well as crash data to really get a better picture and heat maps and such, and where we should be working to deal with the crashes. And that's one of the reasons why we're starting to work more on the Tillman area, in between, on the east side of there, in between Webster and Monroe. Speeds are starting to pick up there, as well as the crosswalks we have there. We've got a couple RFPs there that are helping, but still get complaints about people having a hard time crossing there. And I can see it with between the heavy traffic and the speeds. And then Mason and Webster's always been an issue traditionally, so we're really trying to focus on that area. But the state system's given us University Way. That one seems to always pop up.
And I mentioned that the last time, I have a grant in to improve that intersection with cameras, and so hopefully when it gets more regulated and controlled by cameras as opposed to the timing that's out there, that should help.
And then Main Street, Main and Mason, and Main and Limekiln. We got one officer working quite a bit out there lately, doing some speed enforcement out there and some high visibility stuff to help cut down on that. Dan, just a reminder for Super Bowl coming up. Sorry for any Bears fans that are in the. All right, then our fourth quarter. So during the fourth quarter, we had 0 fatalities, 7 crashes, or seven of these crashes that involved serious injury or fatalities, and 0 other fatalities out of that with 11 serious injuries. We had a couple that were just tail end of the motorcycle season. One Harley trike lost control, driver was ejected, and that was on Buchanan, just south of Belt. Another one on Halloween. This was, I think, more reckless driving. I believe in this one that the driver actually put a helmet on while he was driving, which kind of showed through his driving intentions at that moment. Another motorcycle one. Motorcycle ran into a car. And that was Monroe and Congress. We had a pedestrian's truck, 160 South Fifth. This one we're looking into, it might be more of a criminal intentional act than an actual accident or traffic crash. But we're still detectives investigating that one. December 3rd, we had backup on 41. So this one was a chain reaction. I think we had 4 or 5 separate crashes in that one thing. But a lot of that is following too closely. I think everybody's seen that on the highway, cars tailgating, and there's just no time to react when something happens ahead. So I think a lot of that was that, and we were looking at that one, able to find a car, but there was reported of another car that might have been driving recklessly that started a bunch of this. December 21st, a car was driving the wrong way on Ashland. Suspected impaired driving on that one. Tried the wrong way and caused a head-on crash. And I don't think not sure where exactly that car started driving the wrong way, but just the design of the roadway there, that there's no roundabouts, nothing, just four intersections. So. And then the last one was car driving northbound on Broadway at a high rate, lost control and struck a pedestrian. And crashed into the vehicle, those pedestrian had serious injuries. Speed believed to be a factor on that one. One other one we had mentioned the 41 one. This was just might have seen it on the news. In Tower Drive we had one. I think we had 10 or a dozen cars totally involved in one, and that was we were looking for feedback on. There was one minivan that appeared to really slow down. And, that car I particularly would like to talk to as far as what it was, but just a reminder for people to make sure you're following distance, and morning when the sun's coming down right in your face, definitely a good time to slow down, but not to dangerous speed where you're obstructing traffic. And don't speed up because you're scared. Which I've stopped people staring straight in the sun this morning, for instance, that was driving almost 20 over with into the sun, but slow down when weather conditions are appropriate. Then as far as ours, I still got one vacancy in our traffic unit, and hopefully I can look into that tomorrow in a meeting, hopefully get that filled and get more enforcement out for the summer here.
Any questions for Sergeant Hamel?
Sergeant Hamill, as a professional who's like intimately familiar with the data and the report that you just went over with us, is there anything that jumps out at you as an opportunity for us to repair or replace or amend in the immediate months that would improve safety?
As far as like the infrastructure portion of it?
Yeah, any specific intersections or infrastructure?
Nothing that really pops out, and I think Tom can speak to that better, just that it's, a lot of things are more long-term. It's just how a city's designed. It takes a long time and money to be able to change it to, make a city more walkable or stuff, so it's nothing I can think of in particular that jumps out right now.
Thanks for considering.
Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, a motion to receive and place on file.
Alder Stevens will make a motion to receive and place on file.
Carl Knight, second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So we are going to get into the meat of this thing today. Number 3, consideration with possible action on it.
1 and 2?
Oh, I was hoping we were doing 1 and 2 together.
Okay.
You didn't call for that.
Yeah, we didn't vote that.
Good call, guys. Okay.
I'll make a motion to receive and place on file number 2.
And the second.
Carl Knight, second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's perfect. Number 2. Okay. So, to number 3, consideration with possible action on a request by the Department of Public Works to create a 30-minute loading zone Monday to Friday, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the west side of the 100 block of South Broadway. I know that Alder Johnson is not able to make it due to an on-Broadway board meeting. I didn't know if Tom had any.
Yeah, I sent him
thing
all of
he
these
wanted.
requests, and he called and we talked about every one of them, because he said he was gonna be at another meeting, so. He said, you're fine to put them on. This one, we'd like to at this time, receive and place on file, because we're doing a bigger study as to where all the loading zones, where the business districts, the businesses want them, and where we're gonna create them, so we don't create something that, 1, nobody wants, or 2, sometimes they want them now, and 5 years later, hey, that China shop that was there, the gift itself isn't there anymore. The zone doesn't go away with it, unless somebody puts a request in, and nobody does. So we're, our department, east and west side, we're gonna create a map. Our parking division, the director of public works will review it, and then we will talk to both bids and say, do we need more zones down there by Meyer, or does the Meyer still need that 5-minute loading zone in front of its business? That was the day when kids and buses would come and drop off, and they wanted to make sure, we took out a bunch of meters, but it's like, do we really want to, 5 stalls that we could use for downtown parking, reserved for 5 minute, when we could just load the meters when a bus or a group needs it, so. We want to do it more comprehensively on both sides of the river, so this one was kind of related to the closure of the alley and the thinking that more people might want to be in the front, but since we haven't had Jake's Pizza and the businesses directly near this one ask us for it, we'd like to at least go through the bids and let the bids talk to the businesses and come back to us and say, let's not go. We want these 3 removed, we want these 5 created. And so we will look from Mason Street to the Fox River, north and south, and kind of east and west of downtown. We'll bring back maybe by the next meeting or the meeting after. I'm compiling the data now for us to review, and then we got to get together with the bids and see what they want. And by the time they come back to us, then we'll actually put an item together. So.
Well, I like that you guys are looking at a comprehensive plan with
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah, we had a parking study done, and they recommended, like they do recommend a bunch of different studies, you know, that you create these pickup and drop-off lanes, you know, because there's so many Ubers, Lyfts, DoorDashes, and it's just like, where do you want these, you know, without disrupting the regular parkers or the patrons that want to use them. They're like, well, nobody's ever using this, nobody uses DoorDash at this particular business, so we want to get the input from the bids, and the bids get the input from the businesses that might be affected, and create these zones based on want and need, instead of just us waving our wand saying, you guys should have this, and like, we don't want it. So at this time, I think we should receive and place on file, and we'll bring it back when we have a comprehensive recommendation for the downtown parking.
And you're working with all the bids, like including Shipyard and Downtown Greendale, Old Main, all of them?
We'll be working definitely with, well, I guess Old Main Street, I've never had a request out in that area, but I mean, I'm only doing the study in the two downtown areas, so it would be the on Broadway and OBI. I mean,
Okay.
Shipyard is a business district, but they're not a bid. They're not a business improvement district. They're an LLC district. And I'm only going down as far as like looking at things maybe down by the school district offices. I'm gonna leave that south end by the Shipyard development to wait until it starts to get built out, when a fire station is there. Shipyards goes through its
Right, those
phases,
apartments, that
parking
would be-
lots, apartments, then we'll, you know, but there's not too much to do south of Arndt. You know, so we'll just look at that area for right now. And I don't know if Shipyard's gonna become a bid or if OBI is gonna expand, you know, but either way, we'll just deal with the two districts that we have in the area where businesses might want it.
Any questions for Tom? Or?
Tom, one of the original, the impetus for this request from me and from planning staff at Economic and Community Development was to resolve an issue where delivery trucks were parking in my parking lot at the Tarleton Theater at 409 and 100 South Chestnut. So this was, while it was running concurrently to the request for us to have a partial alley closure, it was a separate request, and it was in order to remedy all of these delivery trucks to the businesses on that 100 South block of Broadway to cease parking in the middle of my parking lot. And what that does is it deteriorates that parking lot, and it will require for us to do replacement and take some pretty severe action that would be pretty costly to me and my business partner. So, one of the questions that I have is, is there an option for us to explore something on a temporary basis here, or exploratory basis, in order for us to see a more immediate resolution to this issue before the alley closure takes place, before the comprehensive study of the downtown parking options? Is there anything that can be done there?
Well, I think I usually try to leave it to the business districts. I don't go to Jake's Pizza and say, what do you want? I let them work through their alder and or through their bid to come to us. I don't know that moving a loading zone into the front of a business helps them at all, because they're like, our front door is for our customers, not for our cases of beer and our supplies from our vendors. So those semis that go down the back alley from Sardine Can northbound will have to exit through your parking lot.
But not currently, because we don't have an agreement in place yet.
No, right.
And so for the last 7 years, it's been going on, and that's what I'm trying to remedy.
Well, we can block off your parking lot, or you can block off your parking lot, as long as we still have our alley. But the problem is, you want to close that alley. So, all those trucks should go straight down and not turn. I don't know why they would turn and cut through. We had a similar problem over on North
They're
Broadway.
turning in from South Chestnut. They're pulling right in from west to east into our parking lot like this, and delivering, and then pulling out. So they're using my parking lot as like a loading zone, essentially, like a loading dock.
Right.
And
Well,
I
we can
think-
talk to those businesses, and we can have PD go over there and enforce people who are off the truck route. They should not be, they should be deviating from the truck route to Broadway, to Howard, and then north to that alley. Or they could come off of Walnut. I don't think that's a one-way alley, but it might be. But they should be coming off onto Chestnut or Maple and then coming into that parking lot. We had a similar problem when Scan Home was first developed. where they cut through the parking lot as opposed to using the alley over there by Herkman Mechanical and coming down by M&I Bank, down that alley. They just like to, well, look at this big old parking lot. And
Right.
I can imagine these semis, you know, and these delivery trucks,
Right.
they're gonna tear up a parking lot, 2-inch, 3-inch asphalt without the right base.
Right.
But we can, I mean, I can't mark it as trucks, but I can definitely let the businesses know, let Alder Johnson, well, he's the Alder, I don't even know if he's the Alder and the bid. I know he's the bid there, but I can let him know to let those businesses know that they need to use that alley properly for their pickup and drop off. And we don't care if they obstruct the alley, that's what the alley's for. Stop.
Sure.
Unload your stuff and then
Yeah.
continue on.
And when that agreement for the alley closure is in place, we'll expect and welcome businesses to turn through, and we'll be prepared to make those changes to the
Right.
lot in order to accommodate. But, you know, as.
But I think they're always gonna use the alley, you know, no matter, if we create a loading zone in the front, it's a loading zone for the pickup and drop off, for somebody to run in and get Jake's Pizza, or somebody to a DoorDash or a Uber or Lyft, not a semi-truck dropping off goods, because none of them want goods coming through the front door, you know, so. That's why I also want to let this process work its way out to say, do we want 1 stall, 2 stalls, 3 stalls? You know, Children's Museum, we created a very large area because we had buses being dropped off and we had Cisco delivery vehicles, so we wanted to create something fairly substantial.
Sure.
But if over here, it's just like, we just want 2 spots. We just want enough for, you know, but we, you know, none of them have said that they want to be able to take their deliveries to the front. So we'll
Well,
work with
this would
PD.
accommodate the precedent that's already set now. Delivery trucks are parking as well on the street, and so instead of penalizing those businesses, you know, which is not what I want to do. And I
Right.
don't want to push our Alder to go and yell at any of these businesses or let them know, like, in a friendly way. We've already reached out to all of them and, you know, and just reminded them that, you know, there are more appropriate places for those trucks to load. And we've installed signage on our private property ourselves that, you know, would remind delivery trucks that this isn't an appropriate place to deliver, this is a parking lot for customers. But because there's already a precedent of delivery trucks dropping off as well on South Broadway, that's where this idea came from city staff, and I signed on because I thought it was a great alternative to what was happening, but.
Ideally, even you would like them to just stick to the alley and leave your parking lot alone.
Yeah, but also if there's
But I also
a
feel-
culture of parking right on the street, then wouldn't we accommodate that with this loading zone? Because it's already happening so often.
If the business infrastructure is already there in place to load in from the alley, it would make sense that they should just use the alley as an alley. I mean, I would almost say blocking off that portion of the parking lot to the alley and accompanying with no loading zone signs that should be there. If more enforcement's needed, it was already suggested that, you know, I mean, it was already offered.
There's also a parking study that calls for loading zones in our downtown area on the street. So
Yeah,
there-
well, the study recommends PUDO lanes, which is pick up and drop off, not so much loading, but we want to incorporate loading if that's what they want. You know.
Okay.
So if a B's coffee truck wants to go there and a car, then we'd want to make it a little bit longer, you know. I mean, if somebody pulls into a loading zone and the back end hangs over into no parking here corner, we ain't going to say them, we're going to let them do their business. But if we can create the loading zone in the appropriate length, why not do it right away?
Okay. Let me back off. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm happy to hear that there's a comprehensive study that'll be done. And, you know, I certainly want to, like, make my voice heard as a business there, but I don't want to take up the time of our board, you know, and I don't want to squabble when sounds like some really nice next steps in place. So thank you guys for hearing me out at least. I appreciate it.
All right.
We don't always have the other perspective in the room.
Sure, yeah. Well, to the detriment of our meeting time.
But we all need to realize that there's a lot of moving parts at the moment
Yep.
regarding this area.
Sure.
You know, Common Council did approve the closure,
Yes.
but what you need to follow through and what stalls are gonna be removed
Yep.
to make that happen, so. And I do agree that, you know, I know you want it now, but timing is key here. Let them do their study and then come back to all of us. It'll benefit you in the
Sounds
long
good.
run, so don't push it so fast.
I'll work on
Okay,
that.
so any other?
Until the next time.
Any questions or comments? Otherwise, can I?
Alder Stevens will make a motion to receive on place and file.
Perfect. And a second?
Second from Stephen Larson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, number 3. Forward. A consideration with possible action on a request by Carl Knight on the need for a regular rapid flashing beacon at 3rd Street and South Ashland for children crossing South Ashland Avenue to play at Tank Park. This is another one. Actually, can we take 4 and 5 together?
So it's 5, other one?
They're both the flashing beacons. I guess we'll just go with 4 and then 5 will be
Yeah.
easier. Do you have?
You can take 5 and 6 together, because one of
Okay.
them was at 9th and the other was 8th.
Thank you.
That would make more
Okay.
sense than these two even.
So for the one on 4th, I know
Third.
that if it was up to, I know we can't just do a beacon every time we get one requested, because A, they cost money, and B, they would be on every street corner in the entire city. So is there any comments that you have on the placement of 4, or any feedback from the city end on that one?
I mean, we eliminated this crossing years ago. It used to be, an adult crossing guard was there, crossing kids to go to tank school at 3rd. And we talked to the school and said, can you redirect those students, let me see, where am I? Tank school is here, and they come down to 5th, and 5th goes underneath Ashland. If they live over here, why would they cross at 3rd at a connecting highway? That's 5 lanes wide, and it's got a lot of traffic, cutting Mason Street on and off ramps, as opposed to going underneath the street. Whether that's going to Tank or going to the park, now that Tank is closed, and that's worked forever. So we got rid of that. In the big plan for Mason Street, which is coming in 2031, 32, is pretty much 100% that Ashland Avenue, or Mason Street is gonna come down to grade by Ashland Avenue, and that intersection will be as big, if not bigger, than Mason and Military. Dual lefts all the way around.
Okay.
And so both Clinton and 3rd Street might not exist as we see them today. They might just be physically cut off, or right turn, right in, right outs, because we can't have an intersection that's that close. That'd be like taking an intersection and putting it at, 300 feet north of Military. An intersection, not a driveway to Starbucks or something like that, a full-fledged, so. We don't encourage pedestrians to cross at that location. We say, find a different place to cross, and that best place would be underneath. Even at Clinton, we had a crossing guard there, and there was only one student that crossed, and we got rid of the school crossing and said, unfortunately, we don't have crossing facilities with this traffic signal on each side of this ramp. We just don't have the sidewalks to connect it. There's no sidewalks on the ramp, there's no sidewalks connecting to. It'd just be crossing from one side of the street to the other. We have an RFB down by Seymour Park, and we got the ability to cross underneath Ashland Avenue at 5th. So my recommendation is not to encourage pedestrians to cross there by adding an RFB there. And I believe RFBs, I don't know enough about them when you install them next to a signal. The thing is, they're not interconnectable, so somebody could be turning off of here, off of the signal, have a green light, and come down and get stopped, and then they could jam up this whole system, because the RFB is going to be flashing for 20 seconds. So Hawk signals can be interconnected with our signals and can be preempted and not be allowed to work, to allow the signals right next to them to work. But RFBs can't. You can push an RFB and the person crosses and you're like, oh, I get to go. But not if another person comes and pushes that button. You still have to stay yielded to the pedestrian traffic. So that's why I wouldn't recommend an RFB or encourage people to cross at 3rd and Ashland.
Any questions or comments on this one?
I ask a question? Is there any signage or any other incentives that we can place at that intersection that would, that would detour or recommend that people cross under 5th, so that we're making sure that they're safe, and if we're not interested in incentivizing people crossing there, then how can we communicate better to
Yeah,
that
I
part of the
mean,
community to cross under it?
Is it the Shipyard Neighborhood Association, could get, these are the only residents right in here, that need to go over to this area. So one, there's not that many of them. Hopefully, I don't know what the shipyard development is. I don't know if there's anything for the kids to go that way, which way they're gonna go. Whether they go to tank to play, or they're gonna go to shipyard. I don't know if there's any plans to even include that type of apparatus in that shipyard park,
Sure.
plan.
Yeah.
But I would think if we could go to the neighborhood association or the bid or your LLC, the shipyard, and encourage, I can get you a list of all the property names or however you'd want to do it, but if you put it in the minutes or the brochure, if they still do those for the neighborhood associations, to say, if you live here and your kids want to go to tank, we encourage you to go underneath, not at grade,
So is there any standard signage or language that facilitates that kind of recommendation throughout the city anywhere else?
No.
Not really?
The only thing that we have is there's a couple spots where Tank Street used to, their pedestrians used to come out at these cul-de-sacs, especially over here across Mason, is we have a sign in the middle that says, no jaywalking. So we don't want you to cross from this cul-de-sac to this one.
Sure.
And it says use, and we have them downtown too. We say use signal at 12th, go over to 12th to cross. You shouldn't really be crossing Mason Street when it's 6 lanes wide and we already know that they're going 45 miles an hour.
Okay.
Coming over the top of the bridge, if you're heading westbound and going the other way, are they two vehicles that are going over the bridge, or are they taking the Ashland exit? It's 3 lanes wide from 12th to there, and so it's dangerous. But I don't want to put a sign at 3rd and says you can't cross here.
Sure.
But if we could let those, and I think the neighbors know, I can get to Tank another way. So I don't think we'd want to encourage them to start crossing at grade when there's a better alternative available.
Yeah. I think there will have to be some confusing routing that will have to be communicated, because even if there was something placed there anyway, we tell people to head south on Ashland in order to cross Ashland. Well, Ashland runs over Fifth, so you can't connect to Fifth that way anyway.
Right.
So we have to route them.
You would have to make your decision back here in the neighborhood.
Right, you have to
get
route them
down,
back to go under. So it's kind of a whole mess there, and there's no turn lane heading south on Ashland, and so cars will stop there and wait for traffic, and that intersection is just a tough one, and that's kind of what I wanted to call attention to as part of this. The neighborhood association had asked if this was a possibility.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
And when
it was
they
on the
bring this
radar.
down to grade, there'll be sidewalks, there'll be sidewalks going over the Mason Street Bridge on both sides, so there'll be ped buttons, just like you would see at any other big intersection that will cross the pedestrians and give them the time that they need. And who knows, at that time, 5 years from now, it could have a separate ped phase where they stop all the traffic and let the peds enter the intersection, because this could be a location that
Sure.
needs it. Especially, I worry more about the number of people that live west once this shipyard district gets built. When it starts having the farmers markets or the events, the concerts and whatever else they have, and people parking in this neighborhood to the west and saying, I want to walk over here,
Sure.
like they do for the OBI's farmers market, they park, it's, 4th of July, they park,
Yeah.
God knows how far
Yeah, we want
away.
to accommate foot traffic on both sides.
Yeah,
Heading,
no.
heading either way.
Right, because there's going to be a lot of foot traffic unless somebody can figure out a way to, and I don't know that there's any good parking, plan for the shipyard development, large parking lots, there just isn't any. So it's going to be a lot of people parking on streets X blocks away and
Yeah.
walking to the facility, once it gets built out. So. I
Well,
would-
hence my request,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if there's another plan in place that we can follow, or that we can just hold on for a little while longer until
Yep.
the Mason Street redevelopment becomes a more robust plan, then that's all right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, yeah, the state in the city, we're gonna work strenuously hard to make sure the shipyard and the reconstruction of Mason Street, and possibly I think they're also studying right now, I haven't heard any rumors about whether the Ashland overpass over the old rail yard's coming down or not. I think they're hung up because the railroad isn't ready to get rid of that property.
Sure.
Then they bring it down to grade, and if a rail goes across it again, it's going to be a mess, but they either got to rehab that bridge or take it down. in the next, I think they're gonna, next 5 years, not when Mason's being built, but soon after, I would think. So-
Okay.
So my recommendation is again to receive and place on file.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, this is not a helpful comment because we can't change everything. But I think it's interesting that I'm going to keep throwing this out there, that the root of the problem is that there are 4 lanes of traffic running through what is essentially a neighborhood. And I just, because I was curious, this is one of those streets that there are about 16,000 to 20,000 trips per day on this street. And in Green Bay, we consider that an extremely busy street. But in a city like Milwaukee, they have tons of 2-lane streets that have that much traffic, but handled just fine with 2 lanes or 3 lanes with the center turning lane. So obviously we can't change that, but that street in Milwaukee is functioning just fine, and people are driving a lot slower because the street is smaller. If I could wave my magic wand, I would love to
Right.
wave it and make it 2 or 3 lanes instead of 4. But just want to throw that out there. That I think that I like better crosswalk stuff, and I will always support it. But I have to keep pointing out that the root of the problem is that we have what are essentially streets that are pretending to be highways, running right through the neighborhood.
It's easier to do on the 2-lane road than it is.
Yes.
Right, and I mean, in this case, it is a highway, it is
Yeah.
it is a, well, this is 32, and once you get on the Mason, it's both 32 and 54.
Yeah.
And if you go over the Mason Street Bridge, it turns into even 57, so. I mean, they are the through highways through the municipality. In case something happens up on the belt line, you say 30,000, there could be 80,000, there's 80,000 cars that go over the Leo Frigo Bridge. So when that goes down, we saw what happened 8 years ago when it went down for X number of months. It really tied up our downtown corridor.
Getting in and out of work was.
But we don't want to overbuild them, for that day that things
Right.
go bad. But it's built the way it is. Maybe when they knock down the overpass, and maybe they'll put it up as a 3-lane, at least from Lombardi to Mason, and even from Mason to Mason all the way to Mather Street. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be a 4-lane.
Yeah,
It could be
definitely.
a twiddle. It'd be a lot of work though. It's not as easy to turn a 4-lane into a twiddle as you think.
Yeah. Thank you for indulging me.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Can I get a motion to receive and place on file?
I'll receive and make that motion.
A second?
Patrick Sorrell, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good, ayes have it.
Chair, before we move on, we have a clarification on number 3. Commissioner Knight, were you sustaining on number 3? I know you didn't vote.
I
with your
abstained.
name.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'll make mention of it verbally next time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for that, Mr. Stevens.
I didn't hear you say anything. I'm like, wait, I think you're working.
Yes, I was
But she
silently
needs to make a
abstaining.
note.
I'll vocally abstain next time, thank you.
Okay, regarding items number 5 and 6, I suspend the rules to take these items up on one roll call vote.
Can I get a second?
To me, they're separate issues. They're both on South Broadway, but they're separate blocks at South Broadway. One is an RFB request and one is removing a parking restriction on a block of
Well,
businesses.
you have 2 requests. You have one for an RFB at 8th and or an RFB at 9th. Or did it?
They're together.
Yeah.
We'll just do number 5.
Okay,
withdraw. Thank you. Okay. Consideration with possible action on a request by Tarl Knight on the need for a RFB at 8th or 9th Street and South Broadway for children crossing South Broadway to play at 8th Street Park. All right, back to you, Tom.
Yep. Well, you can't put an RFB at 9th because it's a 4-way stop. So that one is out, just as, we're already stopping everybody, so it's almost nothing safer than an all-way stop. It's even safer than a signal, because a signal you still have right on reds, other movements that happen that stop, everybody's gotta come to a stop and see it. In 8th Street being such a short block away from 9th Street where it's an all-way stop, again, what pedestrians are we moving from this side of 8th to get over to the park? It's, a lot of these are businesses along Broadway. Most of these are businesses here, unless somebody's going from Cropsy's on 10th and walking up State Street and then crossing. We don't have crosswalks there to begin with, so we like to take baby steps. You know, first you have to have pedestrians. Are there any pedestrians that cross there? You have 2, 3, 5 a day. All right, do we want to add crosswalks? And then do we want to add a sign that says pedestrians are crossing? Because they're crossing, anybody can cross anywhere they want legally. You know, you can cross the street, you know, unless it's mid-block, then you're jaywalking, which you kind of can do as long as you're not interfering with traffic. So, you know, we don't have crosswalks, we don't have pedestrian signs, we've never had any heavy pedestrian activity. And by heavy pedestrians, they're usually talking 20 in an hour. You know, I mean, it's just like near a school or a very busy park or a shopping center or someplace where you see people coming and going. This is the first time in my 37 years that I've had a request down here to address this, you know, even when we reconstructed it 10, 15 years ago. And it is I think there's a parking lane, a bike lane, it's a 2-lane road, it's not a 4-lane. Did anybody, you know, suggest to the city that we need to accommodate more for the pedestrian movement, because it just wasn't of any great concern. It's not an Ashland, it's not a 4-lane facility, it's not carrying 12,000 cars. It's a lot, it's heavy on the trucks, I'll give you that. But again, we don't have any pedestrian facilities there, so to go up to an RFP, I don't see that happening.
Any commentary or questions?
I have a couple of questions. This is a request that came at the suggestion of the Neighborhood Association. While there are 20 pedestrians per hour, you know, if there are 20 in an afternoon, the request, I think, comes from a proactive place of concern for children who live on both sides of South Broadway crossing, and both at 7th and at 8th, there are no stopping, you know, there's no signals, there's no stop signs, and there's regular traffic, particularly at the same time that rush hour begins, is around the same time that kids will be released from school, and then they're exploring that part of the neighborhood and going and visiting the park. So a proactive request by the Neighborhood Association to facilitate just a safer crossing where kids probably won't go another block south or north in order to, you know, visit the 9th Street crossing. And if that's a regular mode of travel for them right across 8th, across South Broadway, then how can we facilitate just a safer crossing if they're not going to change their crossing pattern? And there are maybe 50 children who live in this neighborhood. It's very children dense with young families, and looking out for the safety of those kids. So if maybe not an RFP, if that's not what this commission wants, then is there anything else we can do to facilitate a safer crossing there, like crossing lanes or painted lanes or some other option?
Crosswalk, I mean, almost anything that I would recommend to do there would require at least a study, you know, and unfortunately a study is very time consuming, because I'd have to treat it almost like a traffic signal study. And I don't have any summer help, I haven't had summer help in the last 3 years, is I'd have to physically go out there and count cars and pedestrians for usually 12 hours. You know, and I break it up into 3-hour increments and then say, all right, at the end of the day, there's 5,000 cars, just like the ADT I thought there was. There's so many cars coming off of 8th Street, I know all the data, and I know how many pedestrians cross. You know, and then it's just a matter of how many pedestrians versus how many cars is it worth going up to an RFB protection? You know, what's the difference between 7th, 8th, Liberty? You know, you could pick any intersection in the city and say there's 20 pedestrians crossing. So obviously we have, I think it's 4,000 intersections in the city. So you just have to kind of pick and choose. If it was a very large park, you know, like a light park or something, you know, that there's a lot more pedestrians, I could see it. But I mean, unless it's again, I would receive and place on file, because this is the first time I've ever heard of a request of this nature. But if you want me to study it, I'd wait till the weather gets better and not have to find 12 hours to go out there and count the cars and the pedestrians and come back and say, here's the volumes. And then what is enough? Is one kid crossing enough? Or does it have to be 40,000 cars and 200 kids crossing, you know, to justify an RFP when we don't even have a crosswalk there? You know?
Would it be possible, I know, like if we received and placed it on file today, could you put it on your radar for a couple of years from now? Because once the shipyard is done, the merged development is done, the apartments and the fire department are in there, I think just the entire landscape of that end
Sure.
is probably gonna change a lot, and the more the shipyard does with like the all bands on deck and getting people down and crossing from location to location, I think this might be a much more dense thing in a couple of years. So I don't know if you guys have like some other things that you're gonna be looking at once that goes in place, just like when you start looking at like the stopping and standing or any of the stuff we were just talking about.
Sure.
If you're gonna potentially expand down that way, if there's a way in the next few years to just
Yeah,
keep it
I
on
mean,
your
as
radar
apartments and as developments change, you know,
Yeah.
obviously the movements of the traffic and the movements of the pedestrians change with it, so
Yeah, because you're
that would be
talking
the time
about,
to see if there's an increase, you know.
yeah, because with merge and the fire station, you're gonna have, what, 250 new apartments with who knows what the family mix is gonna be. The
Right.
shipyard, once you get past your next stage in the development,
Right.
you'll have just more people coming all together.
And I think south of Mason, you know, where the coal piles are, and that's just gonna take time. I mean, it's gonna be,
Yeah.
I don't know how many years it's gonna be to actually move the coal piles, but it's not gonna be probably 5 years to 10. It's been going on for 20, 30, you know, but once it finally happens, then it's just like, doesn't mean the next year the apartments are gonna be built and changes are gonna happen, but yeah, it definitely can be on our radar too. We always wanna increase pedestrian safety and bikes, bike lanes, we already added bike lanes here, but, you know.
Good steps. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you might be able to recommend to the Shipyard Neighborhood Association for ways to improve safety for those kids at those crossings, other than, you know, the RFP?
Yeah, I mean, I know people don't wanna divert out of their way to go to Ninth Street, you know, 500 feet, 800 feet to the south and cross at the stop sign.
So this area that we're talking about now, it looks like it's just mainly traffic of the people that live in that area?
No. No.
See, I
Broadway.
took that route to get over here.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
There are delivery trucks, Georgia Pacific's is to the south.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heavy truck traffic. There's a lot of business traffic. This is the residential corridor calls for bars and auto mechanic workshops interspersed between the homes. Right to where you're pointing at with your cursor on that corner, just to the left of it, is where the Department of Public Works will be installing the shipyard distributing a bench and a bin and some other street furniture, and then directly across the street is a bus stop. So maybe is there an opportunity for
Pedestrian crossing
a
sign?
crosswalk to be?
Are all four corners designed for a crosswalk?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, it's, Broadway's not that old, so it should. Some of them, it looks like it's, I don't like it when they build one of them. See, one of them different than the other. You know, this one's way up here, and this one's way down here, you know, so it's, how do I draw a line across the street? My line across the street would connect to a ramp that should be right here on this side. And this side, they decided to build two. This side, they built two. And this side, they built one. You know, so when I draw lines, I can never connect the damn lines, you know? And I don't like a skewed line to say you gotta go from here to
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
Right.
It just, it looks terrible in the field, it looks even worse from the air, you know, not that some people care, but yeah, this one would be, I mean, maybe I could get a crosswalk, you know, on one leg, you know, over here, you know, I could do it across 8th Street and across one of the two legs of Broadway. You know, but just the way these ramps are built, when they say, oh, I can fit two here, I will. I said, well, you gotta think, you know. But I'll look at it and see what we can do.
Thanks, Tom. You know, a partial solution or some sort of incremental step would be really nice.
Yeah, and crosswalks don't need to be approved by you, but I'll look into it in this spring if I can put crosswalks there. I'll put crosswalks. I probably won't put signs for pedestrian crossings because those are next steps, you know. But on a street like Broadway, I would put continental markings, as opposed to just two lines going across the street.
Okay.
So I'll look at it and I can get back.
Thanks, Tom.
I can get back to you.
Just two things to add on to that. First of all, I'm impressed how long it took for someone to mention coal piles. Through that whole thing, I was like, who's gonna say it first? Anyway.
So did I win? Did I win?
Well, you get the follow-up question, which is, you mentioned you were having problems getting summer help. Is that a posting that's put out there online? I mean, I know several people who'd be absolutely interested
Yeah.
for doing those studies. If
No.
this would be a better question for after the meeting, like an
Yeah,
also-
after or.
I'm gonna make you
yeah.
hold that.
All right. That's your prize.
All right.
It's a
Give me a
good
motion
prize.
to receive and place in file?
Yep.
I'll do it.
All right, who's second?
Stephen Larson second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Okay, this motion passes. Okay, number 6 here. Consideration with possible action on a request by Town Light to remove the no stopping or standing 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. Friday to Sunday signs on the 700 block of South Broadway. Back to you,
This is
Tom.
my last
Yep.
one.
Uh, 2013 Green Bay PD created a zone on downtown on Washington Street because of the number of incidences that they have and the ability for them to go and deal with those incidents. And then they jumped over, and there was a couple of bars over here that, you know, there was 3 or 4 of them, I don't know the name. Gasoline started, and then it was Billy Goats, and then it was, it's gone through transitions. But there's extra lanes over here, there's an extra bike lane. I asked PD if they thought that this area was still needed. We're talking about the no stopping or standing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights to discourage or allow a place for officers to pull up. It took them quite a while to get back to me, but PD, one of the night enforcement guy said, we'd like it, it's convenient, it's nice, but it wasn't like, so they weren't hard pushing it, like, we have to have this is still a troubled area. So, you know, this was big in 13 but the Ubers and the Lyfts would like to be able to stop, you know, late at night, and originally they were supposed to be allowed to do that, but from what I understand, at least in the downtown Washington side, that it's not quite happening anymore, because they just really want to keep people cleared out. Once one person stops, they all stop, and once one person stops for 3 minutes, but the next guy says, well, I'm only gonna be here for 7, and it just turns into a mess. But I don't know that these bars have the problem that they used to. I didn't get like I said, I didn't get a big thing from Chief Davis or all of the subordinates. Sobiak checked Wicklund, I think his name is. They went through a number of people at PD to see if they still needed this zone, and they didn't. They come back with a resounding, we like it, and if it could stay, that'd be nice, so.
Lieutenant, do you have any comments on this one?
Like you said, I think the Washington one definitely more
Sorry,
important than this.
sorry.
'Cause I mean, that Washington one, like I said, the activity down there, there's a lot of foot traffic, and you start parking cars there, people dart across in between cars, and it's likelihood to get hit is a whole lot worse. And like I said, the criminal activity down there, that, I think that they still have enough, we want to be able to see people on the sidewalks there. I think, personally, mine, this one, I could read the way on it, as far as there's just the busyness of the bars there, and like I said, in 2013 when it came in, Billy was there at the time.
Yeah.
Probably, and it was definitely after there was some big fights down there. But I think I could probably read the way on it right now.
It looks like there's enough parking if you need to park somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know when we surfaced the lot underneath the Mason Street Bridge north of these bars, but it was unimproved. Well, it was actually quite a while ago, because Alder Zima got us to pave it. The city was a little bit worried about people parking in that unimproved lot and going to these places. in tripping and falling, we had potholes, it was unimproved, so it wasn't good. Now we have a surface parking lot, I don't know if anybody pays the lease, but we lease it out to the people who live above the bars and to the bar owners, or it's just, I think most of the patrons park there, but it'd be, I think some of them would like to at least load and unload or use this area in the front, and I can't right now, late at night.
I've got a letter from the property owners of the businesses and properties on that block. Can I
For
submit that?
discussion, can I make a motion? I make a motion that we move forward with removal.
Trying to shut me up.
You can open it for
No,
discussion, but that's what I'm
I
putting
love
on the table, so.
You know.
That's what you want.
If they're not opposed, I see no reason not to, so if you're okay with just first, and if anybody wants to second.
Yeah, are we
I'll admit
Sure,
I'm curious about
yeah.
what the business owners have to say, but,
They probably want to come.
yeah.
He's one of the
I mean,
business owners.
It's a
Yeah.
logical thing to do.
Yeah.
I want it there.
Then,
Like,
yeah,
makes sense.
Then I think we should get rid of it too.
Perfect. Okay.
I've been saying no to everything.
So
else.
second over there? Is that a second from?
Jesse Wellens will second.
All right, all in favor?
Right?
Any opposed?
I abstain.
You don't need
Abstain?
to on this one.
If he's a
I
business
don't.
owner?
I'm the property and business and resident. That's my block. I live in that building.
Oh.
Those are my windows.
Oh, you live there?
Yep,
And
and
maybe you
upstairs.
need
Yeah,
to.
that makes
My
sense.
house, so I'm gonna
We'll
abstain.
abstain on Carl Knight. Motion passes. Okay, number
I didn't know you lived there.
Number 7, consideration with possible action on a request by the traffic engineer to remove no right on red, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. eastbound and westbound on West Mason at Packerland Drive. I was gonna say, this one says straight up that you want this, so.
Yeah, the reason that this restriction was put in place, and it was from 7 to 5 during the peaks, was to allow a gap of traffic on both the north and south frontage roads at Packerland. Well, the county has come through and closed that permanently with concrete islands. So now on those frontage roads, all you can take is a right. So a motorist over here who wanted to go through or take a left to get to Mason Street would need really good gaps, and so we restricted that movement that would take away his openings. Well, now all that person can do is come over and take a right. So this guy takes a right, this guy takes a right. So the number of conflicts in the number of calls I get from people who call me up and say, tell PD to go out there and enforce this because people are taking right on red all the time, and there's no point in having the signs if they don't obey them. And I'm like, actually, this location, there's no great need for the sign, or as great a need as there was before, because the conflict points are diminished. So that's why I put in the recommendation to eliminate it.
Perfect. Can I get a motion to eliminate the signs?
A motion?
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstaining? Motion passes. Number 8, consideration with possible action on a request by the traffic engineer to restrict the right turn on red eastbound on West Mason Street at Hinkle.
If you've noticed, we're doing a lot of work there. We've only did a partial job, enough to get the development going to the south, but Hinkle Street will eventually run down and connect with Hobart. And I don't know why I can't get this to move over. But, so when you're eastbound on Mason Street and you take this right turn, sooner or later you'll be able to go all the way to Hobart or be able to turn and go to Chili's or Los Benditos or all those places. But these vehicles that come down the frontage road now from the pawn or coin nut dealer will have to take a right on Hobart, because they're going to be forced. There's going to be an island here, an island here, and an island here. So they'll be forced to take a right. So if they want to get to Mason Street or get to Los Benditos, they'll have to go Hobart to Hinkle and northbound. So this is a stop condition, and when this light is green at Mason Street, I want them to go. I don't want somebody to take a right turn and then a quick left. And the guy says, I got a green light in front of me, but I couldn't go because there was somebody taking a left turn in front of me that has the right of way coming off of Mason. So The movement isn't that high, that Mason Street can handle it, and it's, in fact, we were even contemplating eliminating that right turn lane, just to make the intersection a little bit smaller. And someday when pedestrians want to cross to get from Walmart to Chili's, I think we're gonna put a mid-block one in there as opposed to trying to get them at this intersection, because Hinkle and Mason is, it's gotta be in the top 5 intersections as far as volumes, and there's nothing I can do about that. But if it comes up in pedestrian crossings, we'll have to do something like we did in front of NWTC, you know, cross them somewhere in the midpoint, and to get them away from the signal, get them away from the traffic, so it's not really competing with directional. So that's why I'm recommending that we eliminate the ability to take a right on red.
Are you foreseeing lots of people just not wanting to go down Hinkle? So do you think you're gonna have a lot of people doing just like a U-turn?
Well, until they get used to it, I think a lot of people will come down here, they'll take a left, they'll go into Chili's
And come out,
new
yeah.
driveway, they'll go around the backside of Chili's, and they'll pop out. I'm already getting complaints, because we have this all barreled off right now. I'm trying to get people used to it, and everybody at, not so much Lowe's, but everybody goes to Baycare Clinic, which is a lot, and they're usually middle to upper age. It's got a lot of cataracts and glaucoma and those type of
Right.
procedures at their eye care clinic. But they're like, can you get those barrels out of the way so I can get back through? And we're like, you can't, you know, you can come in from whichever direction you came in from, but when you leave, you're gonna have to go back to Mason. Again, like what the county did at Packerland in the frontage road, we're limiting the movements.
Right, but then they'll just be able to, from there, they'll be able to go take a roundabout and come back.
This, they can either take a right, go to roundabout, they'll be able to get over into this lane, but we're just not gonna let them cross
Across.
in either direction. You know, the frontage road is. So because of the geometric changes that have started to take place and will finish to take place, I wanna get traffic used to
Used to the pattern.
not taking a right on
Yeah.
that.
Any other questions for Tom? Otherwise, can I get a motion to restrict right turn on red eastbound on West Mason Street and Hinkle Street?
Taro motion.
Excellent.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, number 8 passes. At number 9, the.
So real quick, Tom, how long will those barrels still, I mean, is that gonna be a spring thing or?
It'll be, I think this project, I don't know when it starts back up again in the spring, but I believe it's supposed to be done by the end of June. Where the new Hinkle Street will connect, the barrels will go away, the islands will be built. The signals at Mason and in Hinkle will look like other signals that you've seen reconstructed through the city, black, big arms, cameras. That will all be done by the end of June of this coming year.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
So moving on to number 9, consideration of possible action on the communication by Alder Galvin to change the 900 block of Emily from residential permit parking only to 4-hour parking.
Yep, Alder Galvin has been doing this periodically
Yeah.
over in that hospital corridor. We had a very large area that was parking by residential permit 8 to 8 daily.
Yeah, it's my
to-
neighborhood.
To discourage the number of hospital employees that used to park in those areas. I mean, and this goes back 30 years. Well, since then, the hospital's built a ramp. They've knocked down several houses. They have surface lots. They have satellite lots. Their parking demands are less and less, so I think he's got residences that don't want to get the parking permit and would just rather, they don't want to open up their street to unregulated parking and free all day and have these people come back into their neighborhood, but the residents just, so he wants it 4-hour, really eliminate the residential parking district, or at least in this 900 block, and convert it into 4-hour parking, 7 to 7, Monday to Friday, like we have other zones. We got 2-hour, 3-hour, and 4-hour zones that he's been changing these streets, so.
That makes sense.
It's still restricted, but not as restricted.
Any questions on this one? Otherwise, can I get a motion to change the 900 block of Emily Street from residential permit parking only to 4-hour parking?
Make a motion?
All right, and a second.
Tara will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The next portion is just informational. Our next meeting will be Monday, February 16th. Back to our normal cadence, and will not be pushed back because of the holidays. Thank you guys so much for your time, and
Motion to
thank you,
adjourn.
staff. Second, to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We observe that.
Motion
We don't,
carries.
we don't in the city.
The city observed President's Day.
As long as Kasha keeps having to buy the,
So,
permit, that's okay.
next.
I love it, that's not, I live a little bit away, but when you walk the dogs around there, it is kind of a, right now, it's just
Even though
empty, or
it
the
was-
people who get permits, and it's like,
Yeah, as annoying as
He
I
went
find
to the airport
4-hour
getting
parking,
it.
I think permanent parking is even more annoying.
well, in the morning, the
Yeah,
shuttle,
yeah.
people walk by my house to get to that Mason shuttle, to go to hospitals too.
Yep, yep, yep. I'm just mapping them all out.